somebody stop me. Looks like I went the entire limit on this one. Removed the IF cans, decided to go ahead and do it. They needed some attention anyway. We removed the dial panel, tuner, and this here was a complex little situation to maneuver. We got the oscillator and the band switch out in one item. The volume came off independently. The antenna coil is separate from the others. We even took out the Magic Eye socket and loom. The one thing about this Magic Eye thingy socket, there is a resistor, and it's in the socket. Davy Crockett. There that little sucker is, right there. I mean, that's my little pinky tinky. That is, and it just nestles down in there. They allowed a little pocket in there for that thing to nestle down in there and go between pins. I don't remember what it was. Between where is it here? Between pin 2 and fro. And you have to pull this. You have to pull this cap or this cover out, and it's just a little slinky ass thing that you will break it. I mean, I did my best to get it to do it, and to get it to pry it loose and to get it out of there, and wound up breaking it. So yeah, so what'll happen is you'll have to either hopefully not damage yours as bad as I damaged mine. I had some phenolic, I think it's 3mm thick phenolic board here that I bought and stored away so I could do my my battery, my A and B battery things for the battery radios and the power supplies, and I cut one out of that and used the old one as a template to fashion another cap to cover the thing in. A modern resistor will not fit in there, a 1/2 watt. Now, you might be able to get by with a 1/4 watt. I don't know, but it calls for a 500K resistor. It doesn't indicate whether it's a 1/2 watt or a 1/4 watt. You know, and I didn't even look in the parts listing to see if it listed it as a 1/2 or a 1/4 watt. But anyway, I wound up having to put the thing on the outside and feed it back through the thing and solder it in, and then snap the homemade cap back in on it. You can index it. There's a little indexing nub right there that you can see in between those two pins. Those are the big fat pins. Those are the power pins. All the rest are standard size pins, standard diameter pins. So anyway, that's it for that, in case you ever encounter one or more. Let's see, when I get these parts here cleaned up, like the tuner and the push button sub-assembly, we'll go into more depth on that, on how it's configured and how they interconnect, because the because the tuner is linked via connecting rods to this lever, and the hip bone connected to the brain bone, and the brain bone connected to the foot bone, and you know, and there's springs. There's springs everywhere. See that assembly right there, that there goes, it interlinks and comes up through the case right here, and that is the linkage that actuates the dial and the pointer and the rotation of the tuner, all in one shot. So yeah, they made it a little complex. Thank God they changed it for the later models, and it got a little bit more simpler, but not any less dangerous, because on the later models they're made of pot metal and or something of that kind. It's very, and you'll snap the linkage if you're not careful with that. So at least this linkage is steel. We're going to clean these items up. We're going to probably we're going to dolly out the dings and dents in these here if they have them. This one here looks like it didn't suffer any abuse, but this one here it did. We'll do it much like we did the airline. If you look at the airline cans on there, you'll see that I took out quite a bit of the bangings and the dents and the dings out of it. So now I did, you know me, I made my little diagrams and everything, and went here and noted on the sheet what colors that I believe these here should be. Now I noticed on quite a lot of radios, various makes, the IF connections, the wires that go in and tie to tube pins, typically the primary comes off a plate of the prior tube and is generally blue, and the other part of the primary is red and goes off to be plus. And then the secondary that goes to the next stage, grid or grid cap, is generally green, and the other end of that coil for the secondary is typically black, and it goes off and ties to a common and generally they, somewhere or another, the first and second blacks they meet at some point, and of course the secondary, the second IF is typically like the first. Blue comes off the plate of the prior tube. The other end of the primary of the second IF goes to red, and then the other secondary wire goes green, and it goes to a black, and then typically there is an extra wire in there. It's usually brown or white or some color of that nature, and generally the cans are two different lengths, but some ain't. So I mean, there's no they didn't and typically the number 48 whatever and 49 is your second and 48 is your first, and you can tell it because it has the 49 is a second, and it has 5 wires coming out of it, and the other one typically has 4 or 3 depending on when it was manufactured. The older ones, it came out of the top, and on the other ones it went to the loctals. Well, the grids, there's no more grid caps, they're on a pin. So we're going to get everything here cleaned up. We're going to start bathing this thing and getting it cleaned up. And you see what I mean about this. Let's see if I can get down here and zoom in and get this thing lightened up. There is no indication on here of what is what in this multi-section cap, multi-section E-cap that's chassis mounted. Now, I did notice that after referring to this sheet for component layouts, it does indicate right here, and zoom in again, it does indicate right here what those values are for those particular leads. And that's how I was more able to figure it out. And then I just transferred those colors over to here. So let me go and do my thing. The cabinet is curing on its multi-coated finish. Prior to sanding, I've got a coat of aqua coat on it. As a matter of fact, hang on and I'll go out and we'll take a look at it. Okay, I might have screwed myself on the prior segment. Here is the cabinet. It is multi-stain finished on here. This up here I think is a cherry or a red mahogany with cherry on it to darken it up and give it a little depth. I know it looks really dull right now because there is a coat of aqua coat on all the laminate. Nothing on the hardwoods. We'll be dealing with those in a different way. Here is the speaker grill and accent. That is going to go on there like so. That's going to turn this radio into a beauty. And there's still some finish work done to do on this piece. I've got to sand this up and get it prepped for a few more coats today, hopefully. This here, it takes quite a bit longer to do finishes on the cabinets and any of the accents for the cabinets, any of the exterior stuff, because with the sun blistering like it is, it's not necessarily the ambient temperature, it's the light from the sun, and it really bakes everything. I showed you my buckets over there in one of the prior videos, how the sunlight after a period of time can super evaporate the level in the bucket. Well, it wreaks havoc in that shed, and that shed, in spite of having my insulation in the roof, it can increase in temperature pretty quickly. So I try not to do anything in there during the middays, unless we have clouds. Now when we have clouds, it's more tolerant, and with that fan in there and the insulation, it's workable. But in order to get these finishes as smooth as I do, I have to prep the cabinet, get it sanded, get it wiped, get it cleaned down, dried out, and ready for spray. But before that happens, I got to take the cabinet inside, and in there I have evap cooling going, and I have to keep the temp down, and then to keep it dried out to a certain degree, I have a portable AC unit, about a 1 ton, I guess it is. It might be a 3/4 ton cooling unit in there, and it keeps it nice and crisp. And I can let the wood cool down, bring it out, and get it shot with a coat, put it out in the sun, let it bake for about an hour, bring it in, let it cool for about an hour, and then take it back into the shed. I got to keep my spray cans cool, and I got to keep the cabinets cool before I shoot them. And that's the key in hot climates. You can't do any finish work like that with a good coat of clear coat if the material is too hot. It'll start to dry on you real fast, and you'll get a lot more orange peel, let me tell you. So anyway, let me get out of here. I've bugged you enough. Stay tuned for the next segments. I'm still waiting on radio days. So thanks for watching.